on because last year I traveled to Cincinnati, USA last year, and also I met Dr. Gary Smith who lives in the next city. I had a chance to meet him last year, and at the same time I had a chance to meet our next speaker, who is working with child safety, and she also has a very interesting program, and yeah, she has lots of.
Bob, thank you for the invite. I am just honored to be here. As explained, my name is Dawn Gardner, and I'm an injury prevention specialist at Cincinnati Children's Hospital for the Division of Trauma and Emergency Medicine. I have a hard act to follow because I only have one finger and one click, and they just did all on the screen, so please bear with me. So today I'm going to talk about injury prevention outside of the hospital walls and some of the on-the-ground prevention that we do in the community that is cost-effective and also that creates that awareness that we need in order to help reduce the rate of injury prevention. And for me as a prevention specialist, it's also a program that's fun. So I want to talk to you about our Safety in a Box program. So I am from the United States, Ohio, the state of Ohio, the same as Dr. Gary Smith, and I am very happy that my data and information matches Dr. Gary Smith and supports it. It's a very good thing. So, but wanted to give you some information. Some of it's going to be repeated, but as Dr. Smith explained, unintentional injuries are the #1 cause of death for kids ages 1 to 44 in the U.S. And as you can see across the board, unintentional injury is a top mechanism for all ages when we talk about non-fatal injuries. In Ohio, one of the things that we kind of struggle with is our infant mortality rate. As you can see, it's that above all of the United States. We have our issues there. In addition to the injury prevention. I am from Cincinnati, Ohio, Hamilton County. It is the 3rd largest city in Ohio. And this is Children's Hospital. We have over 14,000 employees that work for the hospital, but it is my job to step outside of those hospital walls and keep kids out of our emergency rooms and out of our trauma bays. We want to keep them out of the beds. We want to make sure that we see as least kids as possible for injuries that we know can be prevented. And we all have the same vision at the hospital. We want to be a leader in improving health, but we all do it in different ways. So working for our top hospital, one of our, just across the board, our goal is to change the outcome. It means different things for different people within the hospital, but once again for me, it means stepping outside of those hospital walls and educating the community. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how I changed the outcome as an injury prevention specialist. Working for the Injury Center at Cincinnati Children's, what we want to do is take a comprehensive approach to injury prevention. So at the Injury Center, we use a comprehensive approach to injury prevention. We want to use our research and data because the hospital is we love our research. We want to be on top of our research, so we're providing the best care for our families and the children that we serve. We want our injury prevention programs to be effective. We push for change in state and local laws, and we are always on the forefront of trying to be advocates for the change that's needed to help improve the experience of care and reduce the cost of pediatric injury. How do we do this? We use a public health approach to prevention and health promotion. So first we define the problem, and we know that unintentional injury is a problem across the board. We know that it's the #1 cause of death and injury to kids, to young kids. We identify the cause or the risk factors, things that Dr. Gary spoke of earlier. We develop interventions, and then we implement those interventions. And just as a side note, that's my son-in-law and my grandson. He's one of the reasons why I work hard to make sure that we do whatever it is that we can do to keep kids safe. So I'm going to go through these quick. We know that injury is a national problem. On a state level, we know that it's also an issue. We have our numbers. And then in Hamilton County, where I live, we also see that trend of injuries, which is why injury prevention, both inside the hospital with the things that Dr. Smith talked about, and the on-the-ground work is so important. One of the tricky things about injury prevention is the fact that there are different mechanisms. So we know that across the board, when we talk about different age groups, that may be a different mechanism. And for Hamilton County, when we pulled our data, these are some of the issues we saw once we started to break things out. So depending on the age group, you could be talking about a different mechanism, meaning it's broader than just focusing on one thing, which then kind of makes it difficult when you're talking to the community. So that goes to our challenge. How do we develop effective health promotions that cover multiple age groups and multiple mechanisms? The manpower for that, because that injury prevention is going to have to be broad, and then make it cost effective, but also make it cost efficient, but also make sure it's effective in its dissemination. So it's kind of piggybacking off of what Dr. Smith said. We do use the 4 E's of injury prevention. So he talked about some of the passive things that we use. So we know that he spoke of the airbags. We know that smoke alarms, if they are installed correctly and working smoke alarms in the home, that if there is a fire, the smoke alarm will go off. Booster seats, we know that they will help the seatbelt fit correctly if parents put them in the car and use them correctly. We have some environmental changes, so we've added bike lanes to keep bikers off of the road. We have traffic signals telling cars when to stop. All those things are just happen. Nobody has to do anything. The traffic sign is going to change. It's up to then that person to be active and stop when that light is red. And then we also have laws that are in effect, and we also have some injury education. So it's the active side that is one of the things that we focus on at our injury center. So now that we've identified the risk, and we have identified that we need different mechanisms, as our injury center, we began to put together programs. And those programs revolved around at home, at play, and on the go. And some of the focuses are child passenger safety. We have a head injury clinic to address traumatic brain injury prevention. And we also have some teen distracted driving. These are things that we see on a local level that are issues, injuries that are coming into our emergency room, and we need to create outreach to help prevent this. And then after we created the programs, we developed some partnerships because we needed to keep this cost efficient. So the partners that we have help provide free resources, whether it's flyers or giveaways. They help provide free resources. This is one of the ways that you can partner. You can find partnerships to help you keep your injury prevention outreach costs low. So after we had our programming, we're going down the steps. We identified the problem. We identified the challenges. We put together the programming. Now we have to talk about our health literacy promotion and how do we get this out to the community. In my office, there are only 10 prevention coordinators, and only 5 of us are across the board. Most of them are only deal with child passenger safety. They do not deal with all the other areas. So we needed to find a way that we could spread the injury prevention programs that we had, our knowledge, our expertise, and get it out into the community. So what we created was our CCIC, our Comprehensive Children's Injury Center, Safety in a Box. And we took the programming that we identified from our injury data, once it was broken out, and we saw the different mechanisms that we needed to address. And we put together a self-tutorial kit that anyone, community, hospital, anyone could use to help prevent unintentional injuries in the community. The objective of the safety box was to provide basic information, injury prevention education to the community. We wanted to be able to make sure that they could disseminate that information. We wanted them to be able to create injury prevention awareness, because sometimes what we learned being in the community is that parents they don't get that injury is a problem. They think, oh, well, kids fall, kids hurt themselves. I fell, I hurt myself. They don't understand that some of these injuries are preventable. And so we wanted to make sure that the information that we're getting out created that awareness, and that it significantly increased the injury prevention outreach opportunities. As I explained, we're only 5 of us in our office, and so we could not get the information out all by ourselves. We needed to find a way to be able to spread it. We wanted the community to gain access to proven injury prevention mechanisms, and then we wanted those mechanisms to be spread by trusted community members. As a hospital, we have the data, we've done the research, we know the best practices. We wanted to get those out to the community so that their resources could help us spread the word and protect the children that live in their community. And we did that. By doing that, we wanted to use the train-the-trainer approach. So we wanted to make sure that we trained community teachers to be able to spread the injury prevention outreach that we had. Once again, it's just about keeping the kids safe in the places that they live and play. So what does the safety box do? It engages children ages 4 all the way up to adults. Even though we like to just stick with the children, the information in the box can be tweaked. So if you have if we have just a group of parents, we are able to talk to them too about injury prevention and the topics that we have. The box can go from 20 minutes to an hour. It's really up to whoever the educator is. So you would get the box the night before, look through the information, and if you only had 20 minutes to disseminate the information, we would have that mapped out for you for 20 minutes. If you have an hour, you'd be able to do some of the extra activities. But it's all about getting that basic information out to the community. It encourages children to protect themselves, their younger siblings, and their families. As Dr. Gary alluded to, a lot of times we have issues engaging parents, but we have no issues engaging kids. When we reach out to them at the schools and some of the other places that they are, kids like to feel like they are providing education. They like to feel like they're teaching. They like to feel like they're important. And with the boxes, we are able to empower them to protect themselves. And one of the things we also find is that they are home with younger siblings. So sometimes, we'll have that child who keeps their younger siblings after school. They can also protect them with the basic information that's provided in the safety box. All the boxes are interactive, so we don't, when we take a safety box out to a school or a community member takes it out to the school, they don't just talk to the kids. The kids are up and moving, the things are interactive, it keeps them engaged, and it gives them something to remember. And then we always provide them with some take-home literature or something in hand so that they can remember what it is that they learned from the safety box. So we're going to start with the first one, which is playground safety. There's always some data in the safety box. We give this to the educators because we want them to understand why it's so important to practice the safety mechanism. So someone who were to come to our office and check out our safety box, they would understand that playground falls are an issue and that it's important to educate kids on what's safe and what's not safe on the playground. We would talk to them about the type of injuries that we see. Although we don't see a lot of deaths from playground injuries, or from playgrounds, when we do see injuries that come into our emergency room, those injuries can be serious. Which is why it's important that we're letting the person who's going to do that community education know that the information they're providing to these kids is important. Another reason why is because at Cincinnati Children's Hospital, we have built over 11 playgrounds. I have been involved in 6 of those playground builds. So we take space that's empty, space that we see kids being injured around because they are getting hit by cars or they're getting injured, and we create safe places for them. This is another one of our playgrounds that we went to visit, and it needed to be, as we talked about, the surfacing was talked about before, and the playground just needed to be redone. And that's something that Children's Hospital stepped in to do. So that's why playground safety is something that's important to us. Dr. Smith talked about some of the passive interventions. This is one of the passive interventions for playground safety. So we already know that there are regulations when we talk about the surfacing and the height of the slides and the swings. There's some regulations for supervision when kids are playing on playgrounds at school. One of the places that there are not regulations for are backyard playgrounds, and that's where we see a lot of the deaths. Kids are getting strangled, they're attaching things to backyard playgrounds that they shouldn't be, and parents do not check on their children when they are in a backyard playground because they feel like they're just at home and they're safe, and they don't check on them, and those are how those kids end up being killed because they're not supervised as well. And then there's also no requirement. If a family builds a playground in their backyard, no one comes out to check the surfacing. No one comes out to check and see if it's all concrete. No one comes out to check and see if it's built correctly. That's where we end up with most of the issues. That's why it's important that we educate our children on what to look for and what not to look for when it comes to playground safety. So in the playground safety box, once again, it educates kids ages 4 to 12 on the dangers of playgrounds. We want them to understand the importance of playground safety, to be able to identify dangers on the playground. We want to empower children to make safe decisions on their own because most of the time they're at playgrounds by themselves. There's no adult there, even though there should be. And we want them to be able to recognize a hazardous situation and keep themselves away from it and anyone else who may be playing on the playground with them. For the playground safety box, we do that with an interactive poster. And what we do is we have the kids come up and they tell us what's wrong and what's right. They feel like they're teaching us something when we have them come up. One of the other things that we do is we talk to the kids about safe surfacing. A lot of times they'll see the safe surfacing on the playground, but they don't understand that it's really thick and that it's really soft, and they don't understand what it's there for. This gives them a hands-on, and that way they can see, yeah, I see why I don't want to fall on concrete, why I want to make sure something like this is underneath me so that I'm not injured. So that's just providing them with things that they've never seen before and information that they've never had before allows the kids to then take in what it is that they need as far as safety, and then once again be able to protect themselves when they're on the playground. Our next safety box is wheeled sports. We have ATVs, we have scooters, skateboards, bikes, inline skates, all of that in the US. We encourage kids that they need to wear helmets anytime that they are on anything that's wheeled. We also encourage parents that they need to set that example. Doesn't normally happen, but once again, we want to put the kids in a position where they can protect themselves. Identifying the problem, so when someone comes and they want to do the wheel safety in the box, they know why it's so important that they're providing this information, so we give them some data, some local data. We have a passive intervention in the city of Cincinnati for bike helmet use. We do have an ordinance. It's not followed or is it enforced, but we do have an ordinance. Once again, just another reason why we need to be getting the injury prevention awareness and education out in the community. So what's in the wheeled safety box? Once again, kids 4 to 12, we want to talk to them about the importance of wearing a helmet. We discuss the functions of the brain, but because we're talking about kids, we don't discuss it at a high level, we discuss it in a way that they understand it. So if you tell a child that if they fall above their head and they don't have a helmet on, and they hit the part of their brain where they can't taste anymore, and they can no longer taste pizza, that goes a long way with kids. Or they hit the part of the brain where they can't smell anymore, and they can never smell chocolate chip cookies, that goes a very, very, very long way with kids. That fact in itself will have a child put their helmets on, just because they won't be able to taste chocolate chip cookies anymore. So that's just something, one of the things that when we talk to the kids, we make sure that it's on their level. We also talk to them about how we have great doctors all around the world, and they can fix broken arms and broken legs, but they cannot fix a broken brain, that there will be some damage. And I have taught classes, and I have seen parents years later, and they have said to me, my child remembers the one thing that you said is that a broken brain cannot be fixed. So it's those messages kind of at their level that they remember that then creates that awareness that they need to think about putting on a helmet next time they go out to ride their bike. Then we talk about the proper fit of the helmet, and what we like to do is we like to give them just a few tips. We don't want to overload them, but we give them some important tips. So that educator can then go into the classroom and say, we're going to talk about the functions of the brain. I'm going to show you how to properly fit a helmet so that you don't have to wait on mom and dad to put your helmet on. You can do it yourself. And then we're going to teach them a few rules of the road just to make sure that once they have their helmet on, that then they're properly riding. In the helmet box, we have one of the things that are interactive. We have an egg drop activity. What we do is we take a hard-boiled egg, we take a regular egg, and we have a simulated helmet. So the egg goes in the helmet, we close it, and that egg is the brain, is the head, and then the yolk inside is the brain. And this is our bike helmet. So we put it in here, we bounce it around, we throw it around, we ask the kids, do you think that the head is protected? Do you think with this helmet on that the head is protected? And we throw it around the room, and then we have a child drop it on the ground. And when we open it, 99.9% of the time, the egg is fine. Every once in a while, it may get a little crack in it, and that's an opportunity for an educator to explain that. Not saying that you may not get stitches, but your brain is protected, and that's the most important part. So we do it with the egg drop, once again, very interactive, something that the kids will remember, something that is fun, but yet teaches a lesson. And then after we do it in here, we take the egg out and we just put it in a plastic bag, and we do the same thing. We shuffle it around and we drop it, and that egg breaks. And what the kids see is their brain being broken. That properly fit a helmet, they don't have to wait on a parent. They know now that they know that they need a helmet every time, and they know how to put their helmet on every time. Our next box is home safety. This is a very big issue that the hospital deals with. This is one of the top injuries that come into our emergency room, are kids under 5. Once again, we address the problem and the numbers of home safety. We just want to make sure that anyone comes to get the box understands that it is an issue and how important it is, that the message that they're getting out. We talk about passive intervention, so we have the non-slips that can go on the bottom of the bathtub to address the falls that we see. We have window locks. We have the smoke detector that, as long as it's working, It will go off if there is a fire. We have bathtub thermometers. All of these things help our passive way for injury home safety if they're being used or maintained. So in the box, we talk about fall hazards, fires, burn safety, gun safety, and water safety. That's the things the message that we want to drive home to the children. We talk about that through an interactive home safety poster. So it addresses the gun issue, which is huge. And one of the things that I can say about that, I have watched a teacher do this in her classroom. I've watched a teacher do this in her classroom, and she had parents there, and this was a real reality to the parents when we asked the children, what do you do if you see a gun? And some of the responses were, you pick it up and you shoot at the goblins or ghosts or whatever. I mean, they didn't answer correctly, and the parents were really, really surprised. And the teachers were really, really surprised. So this really creates an awareness for everyone. Another thing that we do that's in the home safety box is before the talk begins, the teacher or nurse or whoever comes to get the box will put a dead battery into a smoke detector. And as she's talking, that smoke detector will continue to chirp and chirp and chirp. And what we found is a lot of kids see that, they hear that sound in their home, but they don't know what it is, and their parents don't know either. So in educating the kids that a chirping smoke detector needs the battery to be changed, they then go home and tell mom or dad or grandma or whoever, our smoke detector doesn't work. We learned today that the chirping noise that we've been hearing means that the smoke detector is not going to work, and if there's a fire, we're not going to hear it. We're not going to be able to, the alarm's not going to go off. So in educating the children, they then take that message home and they educate the parents who we have a hard time reaching. Once again, empowering them, feeling like they're helping the family, feeling like they're protecting themselves, and then helping to spread that message. And then we talked about just the picking up their toys and fall and choke hazards, making sure that they don't leave anything on the ground just in case they have younger siblings. Sometimes it brings out stories. I had a child tell me that they left their toys and mom broke her arm, and we get a lot of stories, but we want to make sure that they understand that it's important that they are doing what it is that they need to do to contribute to injury prevention. Poison safety. Once again, the problem. Passive interventions. So we have the safety locks, and we have the medicine caps. The poison safety box is designed to emphasize the importance of the understanding candy versus medicine. That poisons could be located in purses and what's behind those kitchen cabinets. One of the big things that we needed to add to this box was the fact that candy versus medicine. We were finding in our emergency room that parents were telling kids that candy was medicine in order to get them to take it. That was definitely an issue with the parents, but we also wanted to let kids know that they do look alike. And so we wanted to make sure that if they were to see anything before they put it in their mouths, that they need to let their parents know. We didn't want them sticking a whole bottle of medicine in their mouth. First of all, after a parent has said that it was candy, we want to make sure that anything they put in their mouths, that they understand it may not be what they think it is, and they are going to need to tell a parent. So the way that we do this is our candy versus medicine box. Once again, very interactive. Once again, a great educational tool, not only for kids, but if there are any parents present, they get to see that their kids don't understand the difference. And then that creates an awareness for them also. So the medicine box is small, but inside of it you can see, inside of it you can see that there are similarities. They're right next to each other. Normally, you don't see candy and medicine next to each other, but this creates a real interactive awareness. So if you're a community member and you want to do something fun and educational with your school, which a lot of the schools like to do because they want to keep their kids safe and they want to keep their kids in school every day. It's good for their attendance. This is something that they can come check out, the medicine box, the poison box, and then check out the medicine cabinet in order to educate the kids. So very interactive, very hands-on, very effective. Okay, that's fine. Poison for, just talking to kids about if a relative comes over and they put their purse down, how they want to make sure that they're not rifling through it and that none of their younger siblings or anyone else that's visiting the home is rifling through it because there are lots of poisons in it. And then we also talk about household cleaners. We want to make sure that kids understand that these are not sports drinks. A lot of times, because they come in such pretty colors, a young child may drink it. And we want to make sure that kids understand that cleaners come in different colors. Sometimes parents take them out of their original bottle and put them in other things. They are not to drink it unless they go to a parent first and ask what it is. Once again, they are protecting themselves by not putting it up to their mouths. They're protecting their siblings by not allowing their siblings to put it up to their mouths. Everything in the safety boxes is providing them the tools that they need to stay safe. And lastly, we talk about the Poison Control Center. And then in this box, this is something that we send home with the kids. They get a sticker that has a Poison Control Center number on it. It should be handy in every home. What we find out is a lot of homes don't even know about it, but it's a great resource for adults, kids, and pets if they have a question about medicine. So it's just another piece of education that we're providing for our safety box participants. Concussion safety is another issue that we see and outreach that we need to do. Once again, traumatic brain injury is a problem not only for sports, but just for other things, and we want to make sure that kids don't always associate concussions with sports. In Ohio, we have our heads up concussion law where now kids have to seek medical release before they can go back to play sports. So we've kind of got something in place. If a child were to be diagnosed with a concussion. This box is for kids that are a little older. We do it for ages 8 to 18, just so we know that they better understand concussions. So we talk about what is a concussion, some of the common causes, the signs and symptoms, because this is something that you cannot look at a child and determine that they have a concussion. They pretty much have to tell you based on their symptoms. And so we want them to be able to recognize what those symptoms are. And then how to treat a concussion, and then when it's safe to return. How do we do this? With concussion goggles. These goggles simulate a concussion with their effects. So a child will put them on and they would see, things would be just distorted, blurry, some of the other things, they would kind of get that dizziness that they may have when they have a concussion. Once again, they would then be able to recognize the symptoms of whether they've been hit in the head and whether they need to tell a parent, I think I may have a concussion. And everything's here, so if you'd like to try them, you'll get a chance to try them, hopefully. This is just, so the child walking the line has on concussion glasses, and with those glasses on, he thinks that he's on that line. But we outside can see that he's not, can see that there is some brain injury, and that now he can recognize and see what it may feel like if he has a concussion, because he really, really thinks he's on that line. And most of the time, that's what happens when we do the activities with the kids. They think one thing, but then after we talk about a concussion, they realize something else. The last box we have is our child passenger safety box. We have our law, we have recommendations in Ohio. We have a booster seat law in Ohio where kids age 4 all the way up to 8, sometimes 12, depending on the height, need to be in a booster seat in order to have the seatbelt raise them to correctly fit them across their shoulders and their lap. We partner with Buckle Up for Life, which is another program run out of the hospital. Once again, just looking for those places that have free resources so that the outreach that we do is inexpensive as possible. Once again, identifying the problem. We do have the passive interventions with our car seat recommendations and our booster seat laws. And then we talk, one of the things, yes. There we go. Okay. So in the child passenger safety box, we have ages 4 to 12. We talk about the importance of a booster seat. A lot of times we have parents, when their kids are not in booster seats, the kids fight them, and so they just decide it's easier not to have the child in the booster seat. We want to teach the kids that it is important that they wear that booster seat. We encourage them. We tell them that if they're sitting up higher, they get to see everything that other people that are just sitting in the seat regular can't see. We try to encourage them to get in that booster seat because A, it is the law, and we know the booster seat saves lives. So we talk to them about how everyone should wear a booster seat. We encourage them to have, talk to their parents about putting on their, everyone should wear a seatbelt. We encourage them to talk to their parents about wearing a seatbelt. If I'm in my booster seat, Mom, will you put on your seatbelt? Because it is a secondary law in the state of Ohio. And then how kids should not ride in the front seats until they're 13. And then once again about the booster seat and its use. And then we have a booster seat poster. So we set up an elaborate poster, and the kids are able to come up and see if they're boosters, if they need to be in a booster seat. If they're not in a booster seat currently, and then we find out once they step up against the poster that they need to be in a booster seat, then we have booster seats there so they can just see how it raises them up, how they get to see extra things. We just try to encourage them to do what's best to keep them safe. And they also like to see if their friends, how tall their friends are, so it's kind of a competition. So where do we do this at? Schools and daycares. We have churches come, Boy Scouts and Girl Scout groups will come, leaders will come out and they will present the safety boxes to their groups. We have internal hospital who will come and do presentations. High school students, some of our high school students need community service hours. They will come and take out a box and take it to a local school, and they'll do the safety box education. We have health centers, we have our resident advocates at the hospital, and sometimes media comes and they will use a safety box, or a community member will take one of the safety boxes, depending on what the topic is, and they will do it with the media. It's great for schools. Like I said, schools want to make sure their kids are safe, and they want to make sure their kids are there every day for attendance purposes. So that's a great partnership. But all of these places help us spread the word. It keeps our prevention coordinators from needing to be on the ground, but yet the community is still getting the education that they need. The kids are still getting the empowerment that they need, and we're working to keep kids safe. How do they get it? It's a simple phone call. They receive a 15-minute training when they come. We go over the box and what's in it. We do ask for a small deposit, but after their first time, if they bring the box back, they no longer have to leave that deposit, and they get it back. So they just leave us a little bit, just in case they don't bring it back, so we can replace the contents of the box. We have not had any problems. Everyone has brought their box back, so we haven't had any issues with that. They provide us our contact information, and then all we ask of them is that they bring the box back with everything in it, and they fill out a form that tells us what age group they reached and how many that they reached, so we can track the data. So we have five of each box in rotation right now. Our coordinators since our fiscal year, July 1st, we have engaged over 4,000. But with the community coming out and getting our boxes, they have engaged over 17,000 people. That's the word that we would not be able to do without them. That's why we put the box together for them. That's why we encourage them to do it. That's 17,000 more people that internally we could not do, but we partnered with the community and they have tripled those numbers. And that's a triple number of kids, schools, teachers, parents, that have gotten some injury prevention, and that's what we want. Right now we're in the works of creating a teen driving box, fire safety box, and a pedestrian safety box, so those would be the next ones that we have on board. Contact information, I will be here. If this is something that anyone, any place could do. Whatever your mechanism is, you could put together something that your community could get out. They're very easy to put together. It's just making sure that you have the right information and that it's appropriate for your target audience. That's important. But it's something that any site could do in order to, once again, spread injury prevention. Once again, that's my grandson, my injury prevention I'm hoping to keep safe. And thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone have any question or comments or something just like you? Oh, it's not possible to make the things like this because we usually copy exactly what you're doing.
Sure.
Which is not has to be that way, right?
I know.
Because we have some certain thing which is totally different.
Absolutely.
So we have to create some
mission. You know, Pulse has injury prevention programs. They have the same mission that we do. So not only are we spreading injury prevention awareness, but we're spreading this partnership. And so they're more than happy to then provide these for free.
Okay, that's good. Yes, question.
I have a question. How do you interact with the children?
So when I say interactive, everything, the things that are in the box are interactive. So the box doesn't look like this, but we have a clear box, and then in it you would find this, which is interactive for the kids because they would toss it around. You would find these, which we consider interactive because we actually the kids actually have to be measured. The goggles are interactive, and all of these are inside of a box. And then someone would come to our hospital, grab the box, you know, take it to their church, take it to their school, pull the things outside of the box, and then those activities are interactive.
Interact with the children. I cannot understand. Interactive means you have some things in the box.
Correct.
And then you interact with the children.
Oh, so either a teacher or a nurse, or sometimes us as coordinator, they're the ones that can come, pick up a box, take it to wherever it is they need to take it, and do the activities. So we're talking, we have high school students that come do it, we have teachers, we have nurses, we have internal staff. They're the ones that are able to come, take the box to the programs.
Because when I heard interactive box, I thought that in the box and it's interactive with the children. So actually it means in the box there are some simple things
that are correct, that are interactive.
And then the children they have some people who have to discuss this with the children, is it correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And also, you know what, Don? In Thailand, we also have the health volunteer, also more. We have like 1 million, I guess. 1 ล้านคนที่อสมทั่วประเทศถ้าผมจำไม่ผิด We have 1 million of health volunteer in each village.
Exactly.
So this could be if you one of you or all of you could create this kind of box and spread it out to health volunteer, to nurses, to the PCU, primary care unit, รพสต it could be, bring a big
Absolutely, you
impact.
can absolutely reach those numbers.
Okay. Is there any question?
And everything that I've brought, you guys are, everybody's free to take a look at. Take some. I came all the way from the United States, so if I don't have to take it back, that would be great. So please feel free.
Yeah, I think at the lunchtime, maybe I will put some table outside there and you can take a look at all the stuff. Okay. Thank you very much,
No,
Don,
thank you.
for coming this far, half the way. Just give us a hand to Don. Very impressive.